Any nice food pairings? I think I need to say food pairings instead of the other word because that's not working.
Lisa Poisson. She's in her kitchen.
I am, yeah.
Oh, hello. Louise, I'm with Neil. And are you trying to get him on registered with you at the moment, or?
Yes.
Okay. He's just trying to do that. I don't know what's going on. He's been trying to get on. Okay, let me try and help him.
No problem. Right, this. So great to see you.
On that. Right, we're just I'll just get this adjusted so I'm there. You can actually see the bar a bit.
Absolutely.
I now can't see you for some reason. I don't know why. Okay, Lisa, just can you still see me? Okay.
I can see you. I think it's in the when you go in the views and stuff.
Okay. Okay. I don't know why. I should be able to see you as a co-host. That's the thing, isn't it?
If you go up to speaker view, it goes either panelist.
Participants. Down here somewhere.
At the top.
Okay. Which way? Right in the top right of the laptop you're talking about?
Yeah, just in Zoom, it's like speaker view or normal view.
Oh, right, okay.
It says gallery view or speaker view.
Okay.
You're able to see me.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Got me now?
Got you.
All right, okay, so it should be on to go now. We don't have more issues. Right, yes, we'll just
Angle?
Yes, just come forward a bit. Okay.
I'm just putting my little pizza in.
Ah, very good. You look very organised.
Trying to be very organised here, you know?
Okay, well, sorry to everybody else who's been waiting. Apologies for that. So we'll get going in the tick here.
What's the camera like?
So, well, I'll just say this to everybody, actually, Lisa, while we're doing that. So I'm Neil Phillips, the wine tipster. I'm the UK ambassador for the Prosecco Consortium. Apologies if Lisa's been covering it. I'm sorry I've been a bit late on here. A couple of technical difficulties, but it's aperitivo hour. It's sunny, it's Prosecco time, and we've got some 4 Proseccos Lisa and I are going to taste here. I know you're going to be having a Prosecco or 2 at home as well, ladies. So, and we've got some great pairings to talk about, and we're going to talk about where is Prosecco, where is it produced, it's so popular, and how do you get the bubbles. And later on, we're going to talk a bit about Prosecco Rosé, and also the fact, Lisa, it's your mum's birthday, isn't it?
It is, but she can't seem to be, she hasn't logged in yet, so we'll just wait for her to, she's having a bit of trouble logging in, so.
Okay. What's your mum's name?
Mary.
Mary. Happy birthday to Mary. Oh, maybe I have to get a glass ready for that.
Yeah. I'll let you know when she comes in.
Yeah, definitely we'll do that. And I heard you were talking a bit about Aperol. Was that right? A bit earlier.
Yes. So someone said that they were wanted to know what Prosecco went best with Aperol. So and I was saying that it's my favorite drink. So yeah.
Oh well, Aperol is Aperol's become so popular again. Yeah, the Aperol Spritz, it's really popular, obviously, with our Proseccos. And last year it was 100 years of Aperol. So there you go.
Really?
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
So, now, come on, Lisa, you're a big Prosecco fan.
I am. I absolutely love it. It's my favorite drink. So it's just such a nice summer drink. So it's always my go-to, and Prosecco is also my favorite other drink. So yeah.
What about what about the winter? You talked about the summer.
Winter, yeah. What do I do in winter?
Yeah, love it all year round, surely. Come on.
It's always, I just love having like an Aperol spritz out in the sun. It just always feels like summer.
Yeah.
And I was in Italy a few times last year during the summer, so it always reminds me of that as well, which is nice.
Oh, it's great. And actually, we'll, when we have the opportunity again to start traveling, we'll come on a bit later and talk about going to visit Prosecco producers, because it is a fantastic part of Italy to go to, because it's right up in the northeast where you can produce Prosecco. So Venice, I'm sure loads of people have been to Venice, have tuned in, but also there's a city called Treviso, which is about 25 kilometers from Venice, and that's a great place. Great place.
Yeah, I got to go to Treviso last year for a Prosecco tasting in Treviso, and it was so nice. I got to see where it was made and like the vineyard and things like that, and got to go down to to Venice, and yeah, it was a lovely trip. So I got to know a good bit about Prosecco there, but you're the expert now, so I'll be.
Well, no, but yeah, it's great. I'm going. Hey, come on! This is a teamwork. Actually, I'll tell you what we'll do. I think we should. I'm just thinking about everybody. We're talking about Aperol spritz. I'm thinking everybody at home might be just ready for a little glass of Prosecco here. So I've actually got this Valdo Prosecco just to sort of have. Yeah.
Well, I open that one then.
Yeah, go for it. Come on, Lisa. So.
Got 4 bottles here, so if anyone wants to come over to my house.
Yeah, exactly. It's good, isn't it? I mean, so Prosecco comes from the northeast of Italy, so you've got 2 regions, Veneto, which is where you've got Venice and Treviso, and also another region called Friuli Venezia Giulia. So you actually stretch from the west to the east about 270 kilometers. And there's actually a city called Prosecco, which is right near Trieste, so almost on the Slovenian border. You're just getting ready to get that cork out there, Lisa. So those are the 2 regions in which Prosecco can be produced, ladies. And also, as Lisa's doing a bit of pouring there, the main grape variety that we use for Prosecco, and has to be 85% of the blend, is a grape variety called Glera, spelled Glera. I'm not expecting many people to know about Glera. It's a great variety you don't find in that many other places, but it's really, really important for us, obviously, in terms of Prosecco DOC. So when I talk about Prosecco DOC, I'm talking about Veneto and Friuli Venezia Giulia. And cheers, everybody. Come on, it's aperitivo.
My mom has now I can see she's there. So big happy birthday to my mom, and thanks for joining.
Happy birthday to Lisa's mum. Happy birthday, Mary. We know you're a big Prosecco fan.
Loving it.
Lisa told me about this the other day. Right, this is Valdo. This is their extra dry. Now, some of you, it'd be great just on the chat to know if some of you actually recognize this, because I'm expecting lots of you to have recognized this label. For those of you who go and shop in Sainsbury's, or you order Sainsbury's online, you'll find Valdo listed there. It's about £8.50. This is an extra dry style, and we'll talk about the different styles in terms of brut and extra dry in a minute. But I love this wine, and it's when you go there as well to Prosecco land, you'll see lots of signs for Valdo as a producer. They're a big producer, they're cooperative, they're very important. But I like this because it's really what we love, what you were just describing about Prosecco. It's soft, it's easy drinking, it's got good balance, nice fruit. And a nice bit of acidity, by the way. We forget to talk about that sometimes, but that's one of the things we really like. Just brings us back to enjoying the wine. Do you like it, Lisa?
I do. That's the one I usually get, to be fair. Yeah.
Well, I should have asked you to do the whole tasting now. I should have asked you that before, shouldn't I? But it's very popular, and it's certainly well known. And I think one of the things tonight is actually just saying to everybody, we've got wonderful producers of Prosecco, Prosecco DOC, and I think here's one good example here with the Valdo. Now, one of the other things is aperitivo hour. Tradition was in Italy to go to Milan, go to Rome. it's 6 o'clock, have a glass of wine, and people then started thinking, hold on a minute, we ought to be having some food with this. So they started offering the guests at the bar pay for their wine, but have some free food as well. And that's how you started getting some of the pairings going, maybe with some olives. But here, I've got some cheese, and we're going to try lots of different pairings. And I thought I'd just get a modest amount of cheese out to show everybody.
Oh my goodness, look at that.
So this is Grana Padano. It'd be great to know if people already know about Grana Padano. I'm sure they do. Cheese you actually get from the northwest across to the northeast of Italy. So right in Prosecco land in the northeast there. It's really good for you. And the great thing is, it's really creamy and it's really nice to just pair with the creaminess of this Prosecco. And it's nice and informal as well. That's the other thing I really love about it. Look at these chunks, they're just great. And this would be over, Lisa, you look like you're about to come through the screen. Actually taste it. Brilliant.
I love cheese. I'm like so jealous of that big block.
I'm a massive fan of Grana Padano. I love it. This is actually over 20 months old. So it's the Reserva. You have two younger styles of Grana Padano, over 9 months, which you'll see in lots and lots of retailers. And also the Reserva, which is over 16 months, which you'll see in more and more retailers at. And if you go to your local deli and say, I'd like to buy some Reserva Grana Padano, they'll have it for you.
So someone's asking if it's like Parmesan.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's a good question. So Parmigiano is produced in a smaller area, but it's produced in the northeast. The difference is we're using skim milk here for Grana Padano, and Grana Padano is aged for less time. So, for example, when you're talking Grana Padano, over 20 months is the oldest age. Parmigiano, you'd be looking at sort of 36 months there. So, I mean, this is very good for you. It's got lots of good things about it as well, and it's really healthy in terms of skim milk. But it's a much bigger area than Parmigiano. That's nothing against Parmigiano. I'm just, a much bigger spread across there. But certainly the aging. Although when, I have actually tasted on the odd occasion sort of 36-month, 42-month-old Grana Padano. Both really good cheeses. But, it's just a nice informal way to have it, really. When we get round to actually having bigger gatherings again, this is I'd love to just serve this cheese to everybody who's going to come round. Lisa, you just look like you want to get that big.
I know. We'll all be coming over, Neil. You can give the samples to the neighbours now.
I will. I mean, well, they love it, I mean, it is cheese is wonderful. You obviously love cheese, yeah. So. But also, you could just, here, it's a nice informal way to start. And sometimes we love drinking Prosecco on its own. You talked about Aperol spritz, but also it's just nice to pair as well. And that's what we're doing a bit of tonight. So this is, I'm enjoying this Velda. I think it's great, actually. And we got any other questions coming through from any?
Yeah, so I've got a few questions that aren't to do with this specifically.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone's like, is it more expensive than Parmigiano?
Price-wise, Grana Padano would be a bit less than Parmigiano. So if you see, I've noticed in the last 5 to 10 years that Grana Padano has got much wider distribution now. So you could go into pretty much every main retailer and you'll see Grana Padano now, which you wouldn't have seen, say, 5 years ago, to be honest. But I would also say, if you want to get the Reserva as well, you just get these really tiny lactate crystals. I'm not sure we can really see this, but as it gets older, it gets sort of crunchier. And you get more of these lactate crystals there. When it's the sort of over 9 months, and for those, it's just really soft, really creamy as well. Very good for cooking with as well. Great to use in dishes, and just great over as well. You like cheese.
And someone said, any more cheese ideas there?
But I mean,
Oh, sorry.
Pardon, I missed that, Lisa. Sorry.
Sorry. Someone also asked any more cheese ideas to pair.
I mean, I certainly think some of to be honest, even if, I think something like cheddar would be really good if you were just taking an English cheese here, because it's Grana Padano is a hard cheese like Parmigiano is. and hard cheeses, and I think where you've got a bit of creaminess to them as well. I would like to have a sort of more maturer cheddar to be paired with this Prosecco, really, rather than those sort of younger cheddar styles. That would be a really nice choice of cheese for me as well. Just to bring
one more question: how important is the shape of the glass, or is it just personal preference?
Oh, that's I don't know. Whoever asked that question, I'd like to give them some Grana Padano actually to taste. Look, this you'll notice here that what we would normally use, you'd often see a flute. And I notice actually, Lisa, you've got the broader glass at the top there, for example, which I really like, because flutes are great. And maybe, lots of, when we've got people around when we can, or going to events, etc., you'll often see these narrow flutes. But it doesn't give you a chance to smell the wine for me, which I really like. And it just means it gives a chance for the Prosecco to express itself more. And I just think it adds to the sort of elegance and style of it all. So I'm keen to actually have these slightly broader glasses at the top, just like you've got here as well. I think that's the right style of glass for me. Very much a Prosecco glass. So I think over time we'll see less people having flutes. But look, I'm not the sort of person who said, look, everybody's going to make a personal choice. So there's no kind of right or wrong answers to that bit. Good question, though. I like it.
I do love those coupes. I think they're
the coupes, yeah. Yeah, the coupes are great. And I think, but it's one of those things where it look great. One of the things that obviously happens because you've got more of the wine being exposed to where you just, you lose the bubbles a bit earlier. But it's still great fun. Come on, we're going to have some fun. And I love all these different glasses.
I find that I spill more when I've got the coupes. It's so easy to spill everywhere.
Just lost 25% of it.
Yeah.
But I think, it's all part of, everybody's much more interested in glassware, service, how you go to prepare something at home and what you're thinking about, someone asking about in terms of the pairings as well. And I think another thing, in actual fact, just bringing us on to the second Prosecco from Alberto Nani, is we're going to taste a Prosecco that's organic, that's suitable for vegans. And I think these are, there's a lot, obviously with food, you've seen a lot of change, haven't we, in terms of people wanting to buy organic foods, but also in terms of wine as well. And really, we kind of had a situation maybe 15 years ago, we had a lot of people talking about organic wine. We didn't really have the sales, to be honest. But certainly in Prosecco DOC lands, we're getting a lot more organic wines, a lot more vegan wines as well. So this wine here, just if you've got your next wine lined up, this has got a fantastic label. By the way, this really stands out. I love the tradition of Valdo, the previous Prosecco we had, ladies, but this is very much telling you, I'm Prosecco DOC, I'm extra dry, and I will talk about the Brut extra dry in a minute. This is the producer, Alberto Nani, but also on the back of this bottle, you will actually just see here, just pointing out to you, that's the certification for meaning this wine is organically made and produced. And what they will have soon as well, is just while you're getting it open, Lisa, is they will have also a vegan certification as well. So that will appear, and I think that's just, this is available in Asda. And I think that's a lovely sound, by the way, Lisa. And this is, when you go into Asda or you're ordering it from Asda online, you will start the next, I think, arriving pretty much over the next couple of weeks, you will see that vegan certification on the bottle there as well. So this is extra dry. Another one of the things for everybody as well is just, there's so much choice out there with all these producers, Lisa. It's interesting, you've been buying Valdo, for example. You've been going to Sainsbury's buying that obviously on a regular basis, being loyal to them. And this is extra dry, as I said. And this organic, by the way, should I talk about just what organic is in terms of wine? Because what people might understand.
Yeah, because someone just asked as well if it's sulfate free. So definitely give a bit of a...
Yeah, I'll do that. It's not 100% sulfate free, but sulfate levels have really come right down. And that's a big part. So when I'm talking about organic, I'm actually talking about the vineyards. So out in the vineyards, there's no use of pesticides, fungicides, anything like that. So you won't have any of that going on. That's the organic part of it. And then when you come into, you pick your grapes, you know, you're going to separate the juice from the skins, and you're going to put it into a tank, add some sugar and yeast to get the fermentation going. Sulfate levels are much lower. But also for a vegan wine, there's something you do right at the end, which if I hadn't done something called clarification, you'd have just see tiny little things in the glass there. You won't see anything here because this wine's been clarified. But now what we're doing is we used to traditionally clarify with egg whites, so obviously not great for vegans. They can't have that and drink that wine. But now we clarify with clay, bentonite clay. So that means this wine is suitable for vegans, which is great. So, you know, it really helps it. So we have a little smell. Oh, you got another question?
All right, yeah, and this is the wine. It's called Biologico Prosecco, organic. And someone's just asked, does I'll write the name now in here. But someone's just also asked, does organic automatically mean vegan? Can you hear me, Neil?
No, it doesn't. No, I can hear you.
Yeah.
You got me again. Organic relates solely to the vineyards. Full stop. So when you see organic on the certification you have on the Alberto Nani currently relates solely to the vineyards. Okay, so that's about not using pesticides and fungicides. The vegan element is right at the end of the winemaking process, just when you want to clarify the wine. And it's about what you use to clarify the wine. That's when the wine, with using the clay, means it's a vegan wine. And there's a lot of vegan wines out there, and what's happening is, and vegan Proseccos, it's increasing all the time, but just making sure, as Alberto and I are doing with the wine that's coming in now, that will have the vegan certification on the back as well. So when you go into store, yeah, you'll start to see.
Right here.
Yeah, just right there. So that's the organic, and then you're going to see the vegan on the stock, I think is pretty much arriving into the UK now. So that's a good thing.
Ah.
Yeah, so we're getting more of that. Right, let's have a smell. Because we've got nice glasses for smelling, haven't we?
Yeah.
This is one of the things you get with Prosecco is, hey, we like this. This is quite floral. Some Proseccos smell a bit more sort of appley, really, but this is a more sort of floral and soft, a little bit of citrus fruit there. But when you taste it as well, I think it's got really, really nice balance here. Really easy to drink.
Fresh.
Yeah, very fresh.
Yeah. Wow. Definitely very easy to drink.
Your mum's going to be drinking this as well.
Yeah.
Chance. But I mean, yeah, Mary's going to be having. But I like the way this wine's made. I think it's really well made. I think it's good value. You know, it's £9. And I think it's got a really, the other thing is, we don't talk about this enough really, it's just saying it's got a really nice finish, you know, the finish carries on and it's really good. And hats off to Alberto Nani. I've got a little, just in terms of pairing here, because I'm just thinking about, I'm sure, you know, we've had some questions about vegan. I've just got some, I'll see what you've got there, Lisa.
I got a guacamole
we've
and
just,
chips.
You got some I missed a lot. You got some guacamole and some what?
Hummus chips.
Oh, very nice.
Very organic hummus chips. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great shout. Love that. That's a great shout by Lisa, folks. I've got some avocado here. Obviously, nice salads as well. Or do exactly what Lisa's doing and eat the pairing for a kickoff. And also, I think that's a great pairing as well, but it shows you the versatility as well. You know, we could have there's lots and lots of choices here. I'll come on to a couple of the other pairings in a short period of time, but that's great pairing. I mean, that's the thing I like. There's lots of different things you can have for aperitivo hour. You know, it's nice. It's really, really good.
Someone has asked, what would you recommend for someone who loves a nice sweet Riesling, and which Proseccos have the lowest sulfites other than the Nani?
What you're seeing just to deal with the Prosecco side of it, yeah. You're seeing the next Prosecco we're going to taste, for example, Pelage. This is vegan and organic. So I would say, whoever's asked the question here, look out for the organic wines and organic Proseccos and the vegan Proseccos. As I said earlier, we're just getting a lot more of these now. So it's easy to get hold of. And I'd also say as well, Lisa, the communication on this, you know, if you looked on a website and said, you know, is this wine suitable for vegans or is it organic? You wouldn't get that much information. We get so much more information now. So it's much easier. So that's definitely the sort of route they want to take that. And you will see more and more of this happening. The last time I went out, everybody's talking about organic and vegan. Big, big move here, and sustainable. Just in terms of the Riesling, well, the question was about the sort of sweeter style. Riesling is a fantastic grape variety, and certainly food pairing wise, it's brilliant, and it's still great value, you know, particularly from Germany. So you could look out for some of the styles like you've got ice wine. If you want to get really sweet, a really sweet style of Prosecco. Yeah, EISWEIN, and that's really concentrated, beautiful sweetness. And another type of Riesling from Germany is Trockenbeerenauslese. A nice short name there, but it's absolutely fantastic. But it's got great concentration. But also with Prosecco, what we have as well is, just to show, and I'll show this on the Verona, in actual fact, we have as well, we've talked about extra dry. So this on the label will tell you right here, you can just see it right there, it's extra dry, ladies. The driest style of Prosecco is Brut, which is about 20% production and 25, and then you go extra dry, which the first two Proseccos we've tasted have both been extra dry. And that's a lot of the way that people say hello to Prosecco, like done with Valdo and Albertinani. But interestingly enough, there's also a dry style of Prosecco, which has a little bit more sugar in. So lots more amount of production, but there are some really, really good dry Proseccos out there. So to come back as well, those asked the question in terms of the Riesling, look out for dry Proseccos. They're all on the label. You can easily find out, you know, like we've had with the extra dry here with the Valdo. It's very clear. So the sequence is Brut, extra dry, then dry.
Oh, okay.
And I think it's interesting because some people say to me, well, hold on a minute, Neil, dry, surely that's going to be the driest start, but the sequence is Brut, extra dry, and dry. And there are fantastic dry Proseccos, which will go brilliantly with sweet dishes, by the way. So you can certainly look at those.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a...
Someone's asked, what would you say is the lowest calories then?
Oh, well...
You're here with loads of females, so that's
I did have somebody once walk up to me and say, there aren't any calories in wines. Oh, then, Neil, I had to sort of break it to them and say, yes, there are. So, look, the thing is, the Brut style, you have about 10 grams of sugar per litre. Extra dry goes from, well, Brut goes up to 12 grams, and then extra dry goes from 13 to 18. And then for dry, it's 18 to 32, sorry. There are a couple of Proseccos now. There's a Prosecco called La Gioiosa, spelled Gioiosa, which you will see their yellow label in Majestic. But they've also introduced a lower calorie Prosecco, which you will see in Morrison's. I think it's also in Ocado as well. So we've got some Ocado shoppers there in Morrison's. How do they get that? How do they do that? I mean, the normal thing is you pick the grapes mid-September through to early October. When they first produced this, they produced it in 2018, which was a brilliant year. You know, it was really sunny. I mean, if we carry on like this, we're going to have the most amazing year for producing fantastic wines, you know, with all this sunshine. It's going to be incredible. But they picked earlier, so they're not letting so much sugar get in the grapes. So that's one way, that's a way of doing it. So they're picking earlier on. So look out for La Gioiosa. It's local in Morrison's and Ocado. Very good producer, by the way. We do lots of stuff with La Gioiosa.
And then someone else has just asked, is dry quite sweet?
No, I would say with dry, that one of the things to say, I would say it's almost, if you are having a lighter dessert, let's say you're having a lemon tart, something like that, it's absolutely perfect to go with some of those lighter desserts because it's too sweet, absolutely not too sweet. And to be honest, I wouldn't have it was, one of the great pairings, one of the great things to have Prosecco with and have dry Prosecco with, by the way, is tiramisu, for any tiramisu fans, because tiramisu comes from Treviso, ladies, and that's a great city. So when you go to Treviso, you need to have some tiramisu. So
They didn't give me any tiramisu in Treviso.
Did they?
No.
Yeah, right. You have to go back.
I know. I'm going to have a word with them. And someone has just asked, how does Prosecco compare to English fizz?
I'll tell you what we'll do. Let me come back to that because I'll move us on to the third Prosecco. Yeah. And
why don't we, if people, do we have a Q&A? If there's certain, what I'll do is with the chat, I'll keep the chat open, but for general Q&As, if you can put them in the Q&A box, and then we can answer them at the end then.
I will cover that English sparkling because there's a difference about how we get the bubbles with English sparkling in the way we do with Prosecco. It's a really good question. It's an important point to cover. So, but what I'll do is we'll start tasting the third wine, Lisa, if that's okay. Yeah.
And then just one more, because it's probably relevant to what we were saying there.
Sure.
It's fruit similar to champagne then, is it close to it?
Yeah, look, folks, these are great questions. Brut champagne will go up to 15 grams. Prosecco will go up to 12 grams. So it's pretty similar. And you'll find lots of champagnes are about 10 grams. Lots of our Brut Proseccos are very similar, around 10 grams. We do have a new category that's going to come in probably next year in time, is extra Brut. So that will be below 6 grams. So that's going to be very dry, very foodie styles of Prosecco. I've tasted some examples of extra Brut. So look out for those. So we'll then be going extra Brut, extra dry, which is the most produced style of Prosecco, although production of Brut is increasing all the time. So there are a lot of new people. This is why I like it, because it makes lots of people who drink Prosecco are coming into different styles of Prosecco. But also, I'd say really one important point to you is don't just think I'm always going to buy extra dry or I'm always going to buy Brut, because it really does depend on the producer for me and their style. So that's the thing. So let's have a look. Should we have a look at the third? You're ready. You've got the third one ready.
Which one is it now?
So we're going now. This is the Perlage here.
Right.
This producer here. This is a lovely story. This started with, this is the Nardi family, and it's 7 brothers. It was their parents who said, look, we really want to start, we want to farm organically. So that was one of their big things as farmers. And they said, we want to farm organically. So this is an organic Prosecco. It's also a vegan Prosecco as well. So they are very, very much, this is a good example of what's happening in Prosecco land. So much organic and vegan as well. This is an extra dry. So have a smell of this one. By the way, these Proseccos, I talked earlier about Glera, which is the main, look, come on, Lisa, that sound. Lisa, we talked about earlier about Glera, spelled G-L-E-R-A, as the main grape variety in Prosecco. Most of these Proseccos are 100% Glera, but some Proseccos are, you're actually allowed to use Chardonnay, but hardly anybody does, a little bit. A couple of indigenous grape varieties like the Disto and Pereira, but importantly, which we're going to come on to later, a grape variety called Pinot Noir, that you don't use. Some of you will drink Pinot Noir, I'm sure, from New Zealand, from Burgundy, for example. And we're going to talk about that. We only use a sort of white juice at the minute, but we'll come on to talk about what's going to change in terms of Pinot Noir a bit later. So let's have a smell of this. And then in terms of, so this is 20, this would be, the other thing to say is, Lisa, this would be 2019 fruit. So this would be grapes that were picked last September. This is a bit more appley for me. We had the last, we have much more sort of floral characters. This is more of these green apples now that I'm getting here. And some really nice, soft, sort of white flower notes coming through as well. But it's much more appley than the previous 2 Proseccos. I mean, it's subtle differences, but you do get this where some are green, red apples, some are much more floral styles. And you start to recognize that style with producers. So let's have a taste. It's happy times, folks. It's aperitivo. Now, this is interesting. It's extra dry. Previous two Proseccos have been extra dry. And this is my point that I was just making in answer to one of those questions. This shows you, for me, I find this wine quite different to the previous two. In terms, if you line them all up and said these are extra dries to me, I really like this. It's got a lovely, lovely creamy finish. It's got all that sort of apple character coming through as well. And when you get here as well, it's just acidity on the sides as well. And it's really, really good. And again, like the previous two wines, it's got a lovely finish. What do you think?
Yeah, it's good. So what's the difference then? Because they're both, obviously the previous one was organic and extra dry. This one's organic but vegan. So what's, because they do taste different. So what's
yes, they do. And in actual fact, Bertinani, they've got their vegan, they're just getting that accreditation on the bottle. So they were both made from 2019 through. But it's how producers want to just have their style of wine, really, and also in terms of the vineyards where the fruit comes from, because a vineyard in one place, you just get little differences in terms of climate versus another part of Prosecco land. These things come into effect, and also, and I'll come on to the bubbles in a minute, because that's in terms of the second fermentations when you get the bubbles for Prosecco, like you do with English fizz. Is things you do there, and just in terms of extra aging as well. So all those influences come in terms of winemaker style as well. So it's about the climate, location of vineyards, also in terms of the actual production itself and what the style they want to have. It's always good to be able to taste a few wines from one producer sometimes, because you recognize their style. But I like this a lot. I think this Pelage is really, really good. And again, like the previous two wines, really, really well made. It's nice.
And how much is this one?
So this one is the Pelage is, in actual fact, the Albertine we talked £9. This one is £11.95. So, but where I think everybody needs to go is around sort of £10, just over with the label again. So you've had all the details on Miss Jones' PA, haven't you, as well, Lisa, with the list of all the wines and where and we can recap that. But I think that's really, really, really good value. And I really like that. I'm interested in this producer. They're very go ahead for me. And they actually do something in terms of biodynamic. And that's when you follow the astrological cycle as well. So everything's organic. There is something called, and we may move in time to this, is natural wines, which have no sulfites, nothing at all. So that may happen over time. But this is a very sort of forward company. I love the history, the fact you've got 7 brothers here. It's great, isn't it? And now, pairing-wise, I'm just going to stretch across here, because, look, folks, we can't just have aperitivo hour without some pizza.
That's what I have too.
I mean, it's just, it's lovely and informal. And yeah, great. Come on. I mean, it's, and the other thing, what I want to say is it's just great because you can all choose all different types of pizza. I mean, you can have your pepperoni. What kind of pizza have you got there, Lisa?
So I've made, it doesn't look great, but it's lovely. I've gotten a brown pita.
Yeah.
And I put fresh mozzarella on it and tomatoes and pesto.
Wow, great work. I love that.
I baked my tomatoes first to make them all like in garlic and oil to make them nice. So, and then put them on.
Very nice. I really like that. This needs to be, there needs to be some sort of engagement here. I love to do that.
If anyone lives near the Battersea Wandsworth area, I've got all these bottles of Prosecco, so I will send you out a glass of Prosecco. So ready for a party here. Sorry, by the way, you could be hosting a bigger party over there, I think.
Well, I mean, I think I'm out in the Cotswolds here, so anybody in the
Oh, I love the Cotswolds.
Yeah, so anybody around, that's great. I love London, love the Cotswolds, but I think it's a really just informed pairing, and it's just, I like it because you can have margarita, you can do your pepperoni, or you can actually just have all the toppings available on one. But I love what you've done there, Lisa. That's great. I'm going to ask this question about bubbles, because we talked about lady asked about English sparkling. what's, in terms of difference. So and I'll do this really quickly, but it's important for people to know, because most English sparkling wines are made like champagne. So you pick the grapes, you do all the fermentation and blending, but here is the important piece. Once you've done the blending, you will then put the blended wine into a bottle. Won't have a label on or anything like that. You add some sugar and yeast, you put a crown cap on the bottom, on the bottle, and then that bottle will be put in the cellar and it will lie on its side, and the sugar and yeast will basically go out together and create the pressure, the CO2. So that's how you get your bubbles with pretty much most English sparklers. And then, just to bear in mind in terms of pressure, in terms of a bottle of English sparkling, say a bottle of champagne, it's about 6 atmospheres, which is about the same as a double-decker bus tire. Here, we pick the grapes, we pick the Glera, some Pinot Noir, Pinot Nero. We ferment in the same way, but the key difference here is the second fermentation we have, the wine won't go into a bottle for second fermentation, it will go into a pressurized tank. And we have the sugar and yeast, and it's a much shorter period of time. There's nothing wrong with that. Glera, most Proseccos we're drinking are young wines. Champagnes and English sparkling, when you drink, they're a bit older. That's fine. There are 3 different grape varieties they're using for champagne and sparkling generally too. They won't be using Glera, they're using Chardonnay, Pinot Noir and Meunier. But Glera, generally speaking, it's, I've got some older Proseccos, but most people want to drink Prosecco young, like you're drinking now. So that's how we get the bubbles in there, pressurized tank. But there are people now starting to age the wines for a bit longer. So when we picked the grapes in September 2020 this year, we could have some 2020 Prosecco DOC appearing in the UK in the early part of 2021. You couldn't have that with champagne when you're sparkling. So that's a big, and the pressure here would be less than 6 ounces, be about 4.5. So that's why it's a bit softer as well. We do as well though. All these are called spumanti, which is the main, about 80% of Prosecco production. You have frizzanti Proseccos. I don't know if anybody's drunk a frizzanti Prosecco.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you drank some. Yeah, you might. I bet you did when you were out in Treviso.
Yeah.
In actual fact, you might not have been having any tiramisu, but you might have had some frizzantis. Did you?
Yeah.
Did you have some? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of the name now. I can't think of the name.
Well, don't worry. But I mean, that's a. But it's a more semi-sparkling style. It's 1 atmosphere to 2.5 atmospheres. So sometimes you'll see frizzanti Proseccos in a screw cap because the pressure's so low. It's just a little spritz there. Or you'll see a traditional packaging where you've actually got a cork in here and you've got a little metal bar just over the top of it, and you just have to flip the metal bar off. Very traditional, very old-fashioned. It's lovely, really. By the way, 1% of Prosecco is actually still. It's just made like a still wine. It's called Tranquillo. There are a couple of people in the UK that have it. But if you go into a bar in Treviso and you ask for a Tranquillo, I'm teeing you up for your next visit here. You're going to have that tiramisu. If you go into a bar, you're going to have Tranquillo. Just ask for it, and you can try that as well. So there you go. But it's just nice for the pairings, isn't it, Lisa? Just to do a bit, just show everyone we can enjoy ourselves, have lots of different pairings as well.
I love it. I'm someone who my friends always laugh at me, and some of them are on here, but I'm someone who just, I love sharing. So I love having like loads of little bits and just sharing little bits. I don't like big meals. So I love that whole aperitivo hour in Italy. I love it because you get all the little tapas style little things, and then and everyone's so happy.
Well, I agree with you. Come on, I mean, it's a fantastic country. It's brilliant, and an aperitivo hour isn't just 6 till 7 there. It comes in as being later, as you well know, and people dine a bit later generally. And it's developed, really. That's the other thing with all the pairings. So when you're cooking, would you much rather be doing smaller dishes just to share as having lots of dishes? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm someone who I kind of eat as I cook as well. So by the time I finish the cooking, I'm kind of done. So yeah, I Yeah, this is like my ideal. I've got loads of little bits going on. The cheeses, the dips, hummus, like baba ganoush, crackers, loads of cheeses. Like this is my ideal food. So, yeah.
I mean, you know, but it's great, isn't it? I mean, I love cooking, but I'm like you. My wife Louise is actually saying to me, "Yes, you eat all the food before it's actually served." I can't resist. You're a chef. You got a taste.
Yeah.
I tell you what. Let's have a look at the last prosecco. I've got this one here. You've got. Oh, you're going for it. There. Just this Val DOC. This. Just show this to everybody. So this is a brut prosecco, and interestingly enough, just on the back label, should just get that brut. I don't know if you can see that properly there. Just so, and also just for everybody when you're buying, ladies, and on the front label as well, it just tells you it's a brut style. We've had that question there about brutes and also about the extra dry and the dry styles. Val DOC, I know these wines well. They produce quite a lot of different Proseccos, and I've presented now for the Prosecco Consortium for 6 years. So each year, we generally have about 25, 30 producers that we feature in lots of different tastings. Obviously, this year, we have exceptional circumstances. We'll be doing lots of food festivals like Taste of London, Foodies, those sort of shows as well. But it's great to be doing what we're doing tonight, and it gives you a chance to find out more about some of the producers. This is easy to get hold of. Val DOC is a cooperative. By the way, just to say, we've had an example with the last wine, the Perlage family business. You will find across Prosecco producers, small, relatively new producers, let's say in the last 15 years. You've got producers going back to Valdo, which is right back to the 1920s. And Val DOC is an older producer as well. But also with co-ops, I think co-ops, it's a lot of what you're doing is you've got lots of people with their grapes, with their land. They send their fruit in, and their wines will then get fermented. The grapes will then get used for fermentation in terms of producing the prosecco. Pardon? So this is Val DOC. So brut style. So here we go. And I've got some nice, I'm going to have some sushi with this, but let's have a smell. Because this is much more of this sort of real lemony, citrus character, young wines, a little bit of red apples here. Different to where we started from with the Valdo and Albertinani for me, just in terms of something there. And the other thing is as well, when you just taste here, so brut style. Nice. This has got about 10 grams of sugar per litre. Very soft, good acidity here. That's the thing I keep talking about it, but it does really, we don't talk about it enough really. It just brings everybody back to the wine. What do you think there, Lisa? You look like you're enjoying that.
Yeah, it's really, really light feeling, and it's not as acidic and that tangy taste. And the bubbles, I found the last one was quite bubbly, whereas this one, the bubbles it's bubbly, yes. Like less.
There's a little bit of variation because some of these might be 4.5 atmospheres, maybe a couple 5, but you do get this real softness with the Prosecco DOCs, which I like, and it's very gentle. And that's why, in actual fact, you get a chance to try a Frizzante style. I think it's great. I think it's just really nice. It's very soft, very light, elegant as well. Really nice length of finish. When we do our wine exams, we talk about length of finish, and it's got really nice length of finish. What have you got to pair with this?
I couldn't. My local sushi restaurant was closed today for some reason. So, what can I do? I've got cheeses, or hams and prosciutto.
Oh yeah, have some prosciutto. Come on, do that, because I've actually got here. I've got some sushi. Because the versatility of sushi, just some salmon there. We've got a little bit of vegetarian there as well. We've also got the rice. And anybody who wants, classic part of aperitivo hour as well is the prosciutto. And some of us really like our salamis as well. I'm just, sushi is a lovely pairing, and it's good. Prosecco's really good with the sort of versatility, all that savory umami character you get with sushi, and it really pairs up well. But I think, look, we're in aperitivo time. just like you're having. Prosciutto, salami. Come on, bring it on.
So the Prosecco that I went on the press trip to Treviso with was Fiol. Have you heard of them?
Yes, I know about them. Yes, I know them.
So
They're
what
good.
would they be categorized under?
I'm not sure if they're, I can't remember if they produce a brut. I'm sure they produce an extra dry. I don't know whether they produce a brut, and I can't remember actually if they're organic or vegan. I'd have to look that up. We can come back on that and just check. Because for those who are looking actually and tuning in and asking about the vegan piece as well. Do you want to, is there more questions you want to take?
Those are more questions.
I can actually see on my screen. It's a great chat, folks. Come on.
So someone asked, where do you buy your tiramisu?
That's a really good question. I think you need to find a good independent shop for that one. A good independent Italian shop, probably in Waitrose. I'm just being told, but I know somewhere near me that actually will do. You can get tiramisu, but come on, look. I think in Waitrose, but come on, support your independents as well, ladies, because some of these you can get one in a good Italian shop for sure. I love tiramisu. Actually, I don't think we talk about tiramisu enough, really. It's great.
Next question. What about dulce?
More questions. Love it. I missed that, Lisa.
Sorry, I think there's sometimes a bit of a delay.
Yeah.
What about dulce prosecco?
Yeah. This is so. We've talked about the brut. We've talked about extra dry and dry. And dulce, the sweetest style. That's a tiny, tiny amount of production. It's about 50 grams of sugar. So that, for anybody who wants to think about, I personally like the dry Proseccos with tiramisu, for example. But anybody who wants to go into some, really wants a bit more sweetness. But bear in mind, 50 grams, when you're tasting some dessert wines, they're about 150 grams of sugar, that concentration. So, but it's quite small production, and you won't see, that's the sort of thing you'll see in Treviso more. In the UK, what you will see is much more, you'll obviously see extra dry and brut, dry Proseccos. You might see you'll see the odd Tranquillo here. But it's obviously part of what we do.
Yeah. And next question, how do you drink your Prosecco? Out from the fridge or at room temperature?
Oh, yeah, great. That's the interesting one, because personal preference, obviously, because some of you, your fridges might be set at 6 degrees, some even 4. So when you're bringing the Prosecco out, and some people, even when you're bringing, let's say when we get back to restaurant dining and we've got the fridge is at 4 or 5 degrees because there's other things in there as well. When it comes to the table, it's going to be put into an ice bucket and get even colder.
Yeah.
Personally, I'd like to drink Prosecco from about 6 to 8 degrees, really. So our fridge is at 6 degrees. Take it out for about. I took these Proseccos out at 5:30. In actual fact, half an hour before we were starting, because I just like to get a little bit, but not at room temperature. There are some white wines you can drink at say 10, 12 degrees, some oaky Chardonnays and things like that. But Prosecco, I think you want to capture the softness, you want to get the fruit and the freshness. You talked about freshness, but the acidity as well. And that feeling you want to come back to the wine. And when it gets too warm, it just doesn't give you that sort of same freshness for me, really, and that crispness, which I like. Good question, huh? Great questions.
And do you think you should open the bottle for a while before you, when you open, do you think you should, have it open a bit like wine or not?
No, I wouldn't generally do that with Prosecco. I think it's great to do as you're doing with other sparkling wines. Hey, just like you've been doing tonight, Lisa. I sort of cheated a bit. Just decided I was going to open a bit earlier. But that whole piece about just opening and enjoying. I think also it's quite good to just, one of the things to do is you can pour some of the wine into the glass, and then, when you're pouring out to a bottle, when we're allowed to have people around, is then just pouring part of the glass and then just top up. So you're keeping that mousse there as well, which is really attractive then. And let's remember glasses, ladies, clean glasses. Come on. It's amazing. Do you know what? I did something the other day. If you take a glass that hasn't been washed properly, it's still got detergent, versus a glass that has been washed properly, obviously the bubbles just disappear very rapidly with not a very clean glass. So I actually prefer these glasses here that I've got. I actually hand wash these. I don't put these in the dishwasher. I just, yeah, I know. There you go.
And someone has said, now I'm probably going to say this word wrong. Which kind of white cepage grape can we find in the vineyards producing Prosecco?
Right. So it's talking about the blend. So really here, which is going to bring me on to a point I'm going to talk about in terms of Prosecco Rosé. So the main grape variety, Glera, is spelled Glera. So that has to be, so if you're going around, let's say once, and we're going to talk about going out to Prosecco land as well. Let's say you're going out to Venice and Treviso, and you want to visit some of the producers. When you go, by the way, with producers, just look onto their websites. Lots of them will do tours. You know this, Lisa. They're so friendly, so hospitable. You get some great pairings. I can think of some producers now where you get wonderful, wonderful pairings. And you turn up and it's sort of aperitivo time, really. But when you look at the vineyards and they're showing you vineyards with our Prosecco DOCs across, it's a designated area in Veneto and Friuli-Venezia Giulia, so whoever you go and visit there, most of the time you're going to be looking at Glera. A lot of Proseccos are 100% Glera. Just in terms of cepage blend, what you've got indigenous grape varieties like the Diso. Some producers use that because it gives you a bit of weight, and Pereira because it gives you a bit of aroma as well. There are a couple of producers, because you're allowed, that will use Pinot Nero, so Pinot Noir. So there's a producer called Zonin that produces a Prosecco, which is 85% Glera, 15% Pinot Nero. So it tastes actually, the effect of that is tasting a bit fuller. And there's a lot of Pinot Nero grown in the Northeast. When we were chatting the other day, we talked about rosé, and we were saying about Prosecco rosé, and some people, you know, we were talking about this, Lisa, just that I think you've actually had a Prosecco rosé because it's sparkling rosé from the northeast of Italy, and the key grape, a lot of the blends are Glera and Pinot Nero, Pinot Noir, because Pinot Noir is a dark skin grape variety, so you just get a bit of that, bleed off a bit of that colour, like you make with still rosé from Provence, etc., like you make rosé champagne. So we've had lots of sparklers, but as we've just had a law from Friday last week, it was announced that Prosecco Rosé is going to be produced for the first time. Hooray! And it's going to be, we'll be picking in the 2020 harvest. So, Lisa, we need to do another one of these next year.
Of course.
We will be having, well, I'll drink to that. We're going to be having we'll have a Prosecco Rosé or two in that tasting, because the Proseccos and Rosés will arrive in the UK, I think maybe February, March next year. So it's a very exciting development. We've been working on this for about 3 years. So we get the colour from the Pinot Nero. So that's answering that question about cepage. But there's going to be probably around 20 million to 30 million bottles of Prosecco Rosé produced, which actually overall production is about 500 million, something like that. But it's going to be, I think we're going to have a great time with Prosecco Rosé. I think it's going to be great for pairing. People are going to love it. It's also going to make things, everybody's going to go, right, I know what we're talking about here. There's been a bit of, some people have thought, oh, there's already Prosecco Rosé already, or when's it coming and stuff. So I think it's really good. So those are the mainly it's Glera, Pinot Nero, a little bit of Chardonnay, but hardly anybody uses Chardonnay. You are allowed, by the way, you're only allowed to use certain permitted grapes. That's it, full stop. Okay. And I would just add that most people will drink Prosecco after a year or two after purchase. But the average time that we keep a bottle of wine after purchase in the UK is about 72 hours, by the way. Maybe a bit less. I think some people are going to be saying, oh, I bet it's about half an hour or something. Have we got some more questions?
More questions. Can you recommend one which does not cause acidity for someone with stomach acidity?
Okay. This is what I like to get, because when you're at a food festival presenting, these are the questions that people ask you during the session or come up afterwards to ask you. I think, in actual fact, out of the Proseccos we've tasted tonight, the Alberto Nani, the extra dry, so that was the second Prosecco we tasted.
This one.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good choice for the ladies just asked the question.
I have to say this is my favourite.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, they've done a.
Very nice. And it just.
I mean, it's a really good job there.
Pardon?
I missed you there as well, actually. I think we missed each other on that bit. You tell me what you're going to say, because you said Alberto Nine is your favourite one, and just why that was.
Yeah, it's really light. It's really light in the stomach, really easy to drink, not too bubbly, and just tastes really fresh. And I think for the, it's still bright outside. I think it's just a lovely kind of one for right now. That was definitely my favourite.
I agree that that's a great tasting note. I mean, the freshness is great, but I think in terms of the question as well, that is a wine for people who are feeling in terms of acidity. That's a wine to go buy. I think it's great value, by the way. £9. It's
yeah.
Great value.
Because where did you say you can buy this one?
That's in Asda, so you can order it Asda online. It's in all stores as well. I know that.
Yeah.
So it's got great distribution.
Really good value, because someone said to me as well that organic wines are better as well, or for anything kind of organic wines. Organic Prosecco is better for acidity as well. So that's what was a good thing.
Yeah, I think we just talked about organic and vegan, and I do think there is a difference in terms of a small difference, but there is a difference in tasting the organic vegan styles. I do, and was particularly the whole, because and so I think that and this is going to grow and grow, and I think it's really important tonight in saying, look, the way you've said, Lisa, different producers, the little nuances there. And you said, okay, Alberto Nine is my favourite tonight. And that's the sort of thing you pick up as well.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to see people doing as well. More questions, I'm sure.
Yeah,
that's really fun.
So many. Someone has said, can you recommend any Spanish Proseccos? That's Cava. Cava's usually, and then someone else has asked the difference between Cava and Prosecco again.
Let's deal with the second part of that question in terms of Cava and Prosecco. Cava is produced in the same way that most English sparklers are, and certainly champagne. So that's second fermentation in bottle.
Mm-hmm.
Different grape varieties. And I can't emphasize the difference. For some of you who tried a Chardonnay, then tried a Sauvignon Blanc, the contrast is huge. So, and certainly we love bubbles in the UK, and this is the biggest market in the world, by the way, for Prosecco. Hooray! Thank you, everybody. And we keep going. I mean, ahead of Germany and the States and Asia, but so Cava would be different grape varieties. So you have some indigenous grape varieties, Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, but essentially it's made the same way. And you can make Cava all over Spain, but most of it's produced just south of Barcelona, a region called Penedès. And what else have we got? I'm sure we've got some more stuff coming here.
Any tips to clean Prosecco glasses?
Pardon?
Any tips to clean the Prosecco glasses?
I think the best thing to do is I use hot water, a tiny amount of detergent, and just hand wash. That is what you do. I mean, I don't know none of these dishwashers. I really think, look, it's a really important piece, because I don't want to sound, look, we're having fun, we want to have fun. But having said all that, sometimes I've noticed when the times we're going out, when we can go out again, having a glass of Prosecco in a bar, or sharing with friends, and having some, aperitivo hour, you can see, the bubbles disappear very quickly, say in one glass versus another. And it's part of the whole experience. And all these bits, all these little details make a lot of difference, don't they? So I just, no dishwashers. No dishwasher, well, not completely, but I mean, just in this case.
Yeah. Someone has asked, what about the soil? Example, Orvieto gold, lava.
So I missed that again. So it's just a signal.
Someone asked, what about the soil? Like, does that impact it? Example, like Orvieto gold and lava.
Yeah, no, look, there's a French term which is called terroir. So when they're talking about terroir, they're talking about the soil, they're talking about the location of vineyard. Is it on a flat land, in the hills? Is it near water? And also, very importantly, in terms of the soil composition. So have you got just small stones, for example? Is it clay, for example? Also, have you got big stones? If you took a journey from the west side of Prosecco land to the east side, you will see lots of variations here inevitably. It's like if you travel through the UK, you've got tremendous differences in soil type. Even where we live, where we're in the flat, if you've got the hills here, it's a different kind of soil. But what I would say is when you travel from Veneto to Friuli Venezia Giulia, which is the other region where we produce Prosecco, the soil type in Friuli Venezia Giulia is different to Veneto. So you do have a difference there. And that will influence the style of the Prosecco, you know, not in a huge way, but it does influence it. And I've seen the soil in Friuli Venezia Giulia, very different. And also they pick a bit later there. It's a little bit cooler. So they need to wait a bit longer in terms of when they get the ripeness on the grapes to start picking as well. And that's one of the wonderful things. I mean, it's great scenery as well. What a fantastic area to travel around. But you will see those little differences.
Amazing.
All comes, you know, the terroir, I should say as well. I talked about climate, but you know, winemaking as well. Okay, what else? What else have we got? What other questions are we having here?
Is it best to store Prosecco on its side or upright?
Oh,
Or is it best to store it chilled?
I wouldn't store it chilled. I would store it on its side because we are still talking about, you can look at one of those there. You haven't got a screw cap here. We've got a cork closure. And it's great to have some contact with the wine, with the cork. Just keeps a bit of moisture there. So I store Proseccos on the side, and I don't store them chilled. I don't. What I would do is when you decide put it in a few days before. Of course, that's fine. But over a long period of time, it's not good to have wines in the fridge for a long period of time. So decide what you're doing in a few days' time. I mean, you know, then you've got for that spontaneous aperitivo moment, you just go, I know I've got something chilled.
Next question. Can you recommend a good one to buy in bulk and from where?
Ooh.
And something that's not too acidic.
Buy in bulk and from where?
An everyday one.
An everyday. Oh, I see. Okay. Well, I think all the wines tonight are good to buy in bulk. Actually, I mean, I really do. I think they've all shown really well. I think if you're looking at a couple of other labels as well, certainly, and I think I might have some here actually. Yeah, we've got just trying to look around here. It's certainly if you look at Majestic site as well. I mentioned about La Gioiosa earlier on for the lower calorie. Oh yeah, I'm not sure you can actually see this past the. I'm just going to move the Grana Padano, and I think you might just see a yellow label. And I'm just going to grab this bottle, Lisa. That Grana Padano I might be eating a bit actually. Just hold on a tick. Let's just see if I'm not sure if I can grab this, but there's a yellow label bottle here, which I'm just going to point out. We can follow up on this, and I'll send a little note out saying La Gioiosa, yellow label in Majestic. A lot of people, in the way you recognise Valdum, a lot of people recognise La Gioiosa as a label, and I think that's a really good soft drink. Made by a fantastic producer called Villa Sandy. One of the producers, when you get out to Prosecco land, go and visit. Fantastic.
And can you buy Alberto Nani in bulk for a good price?
Wow, someone's really wow, this sounds like some dude, doesn't it? Well, I'm sure. I mean, Asda is their stockist, so far as I know, that is their one and only stock, because they'll ship directly to them. So I think you'd have to have a chat with Asda there.
How many countries make Prosecco?
Very important. Prosecco can only be produced from the northeast of Italy, so in Veneto and Friuli Venezia Giulia. There is one exception, which is Australia, because we, in terms of the EU, we have been talking to, and if anybody's Australian here, I love Australia, okay? But I need to just say, Australia is producing Prosecco. They are using Glera, so the key grape variety. They can't export the Prosecco. We have been talking to Australia for years and saying, well, look, we own, in the Northeast, we own Prosecco, but they are still carrying on to produce Prosecco. The interesting thing is with Australia, and we talked about, is you're seeing more Proseccos being imported to Australia, obviously coming from Italy. So really, Prosecco is about Northeast Italy. It's about Veneto and Friuli Venezia Giulia, full stop. There's that tiny amount of production in Australia. What you will do is see Prosecco being, 75% of Prosecco produced is exported. That is a big, big percentage, A lot of other people would be envious of that. I talked about the UK. By the way, we ought to ask everybody how many bottles of Prosecco they think are imported into the UK each year, roughly. That might be quite good to see if we get a response from anybody on that, because some people would be surprised with the number there. So I'll be going in the interest of what comes through there. And then we have the USA is doing incredible, then Germany, and Asia is really engaged with the world of Prosecco. So it's a really good picture, actually.
Next question, do you use any decanter?
I do use a decanter for red wines, and I'm keen on that because when you buy some red wines, we've got something called tannin, which you get from the skins of the grapes, and you also get from oak. Oak's fine. By the way, in terms of Prosecco, I think there's maybe one person uses oak. It's about freshness, and you picked up on the freshness earlier on, actually, Lisa. But also, sometimes you go on to, you go in, you buy a bottle of wine, and think, I'm going to drink that tonight. And you open it up and you think, wow, that's a bit like stewed tea. We left the tea bag in the cup for 15 minutes. So I'm a big fan of decanting red wines. Just, if you haven't got a decanter, just use a clean glass jug and just pour it in. Pour it in about an hour beforehand, because you're getting air over all of the wine. When you open a bottle of wine, let's say a still wine, it's just the top part here that's getting some contact with the air, 1% of it. So decanters are good, or glass jugs are good, okay?
Right. Can you recommend a rosé Prosecco?
So the rosé Prosecco, so where we're going to be with rosé Prosecco is our first rosé Proseccos will be in the UK in about February, March next year. So we've just had the official sign, from the Minister of Agriculture, that we can now produce Prosecco Rosé. So look out for those from 2021. Lots of the producers, some of the producers I'm featuring tonight, other producers that we have from Prosecco DOC, they will be producing Prosecco Rosé. Last year at Taste of London, which is a show we have normally presented at, and we usually feature about 20 producers, we had one of the team from the Prosecco Consortium came over with 3 bottles of Prosecco Rosé, which we've just been experimenting with different producers. And I tasted all 3 of those. So, and that was really interesting because we're saying up to 15%, I'm not going to get too technical here, but up to 15% Pinot Noir. We did a Prosecco with 5% Pinot Noir, 95% Glera. It didn't look like rosé, it didn't smell like rosé. So with the rule that's come in now, it has to be over 10% Pinot Noir. Because when you have a rosé, you want to smell it's like a rosé, you want to see the visual side of it as well. And obviously on your palate, so you want to feel like you're tasting rosé. I love rosé. So wait until next year, but you'll see a lot of really, really good producers making Prosecco Rosé. I'll tell you what we'll do. Nearer the time, we'll be able to recommend some to you. We'll get that. We'll put it out. You get it out to all your members as well.
Yeah, definitely. Can we mix Prosecco with any other alcohol to make a specific in-house cocktail? So there's lots, isn't there?
Oh wow! I mean, you talked right at the start about the Aperol Spritz. I think Aperol is great, and I think with Prosecco it tastes fab. And I love that mix, and lots of people like it, and I actually like that sort of whole history there. Obviously, you've got the Bellini, the Bellini as well, which comes from Italy, and that was a Venetian bartender invented that. So you've just got Prosecco with a little bit of peach puree, and what you can do there as well is, it's just a really simple cocktail. And it's a cocktail, if you were thinking, well, I just want to do something very straightforward and really nice to do a Bellini there. So that's certainly something that I'd like to do. And it's great fun making cocktails. I've been doing that. I mean, by the way, it's the bar behind me here, folks, and as you would have seen. And it's great to be able to just do some work. And I've got my cocktail shaker on the side there. So you can get the cocktails going. Bellini is very popular. You can also do something which actually does include Aperol, but it also uses a bit of which I've done actually with the Baldo here. So you've got a little bit of grapefruit. Grapefruit. So I've used Aperol. Sorry, I've used the Baldo. I've used some Aperol, grapefruit soda, and some tequila, and just a slice of pink grapefruit. So maybe what I'll do is I could send over a couple of cocktails to sort of follow up on. But that's it. Yeah, come on, look. I'm all for versatility here. We love cocktails. We talked about drinking Prosecco on its own, pairings, Aperol, talked about a couple of cocktails there. It's great.
And last question, well, for now, we'll see how we get on, but can you age Prosecco?
Good question. I've got it. Lisa, can I just thank everybody for the great question? Thank you for being with us. Thank you to Ms. Jones PA. Thank you to you, because we've had some really great questions. I really like these questions. You can age Prosecco, but the interesting thing is, Lisa talked about freshness, and many of you, your attraction is the soft style, the freshness, how well it's made, and finding good producers like we featured tonight, ladies. You can age them. I've tasted Prosecco that's been 10 years old, 15 years old. When we get through, we've got this new category coming as well called Extra Brut. I think some of those will age quite well to be 3 or 4 years old. Be really interesting to try. But remember, I think they're going to be real foodie Proseccos. I do have some Proseccos which are now 3 or 4 years old. I like them. But some people would say, where's all that freshness? I want to get that softness. And what you do is you lose some of those raw top citrus notes, but you can definitely age. There is one producer actually who always ages, Nino Franco. They age their Proseccos for 10, 15 years. It doesn't work for everybody. Some people go, this is amazing. So, but generally speaking, I think Prosecco for most people should be drunk over 1 hour. When you purchase a bottle of Prosecco, for most of us who want to capture the softness, keep it for a year, tops for a year and a half maybe. Have a bit of fun sometimes and keep a bottle for longer and just try it. I also want to add, we talked about keeping, in terms of keeping wines, where should you keep them? As you know, you need to have somewhere in your houses and flats, everybody, where there's a constant temperature. It's quite challenging at the moment to find somewhere that's cool enough. Wine doesn't want to live in a place above about 12 degrees, really, which can be a challenge. Bottom of wardrobes are fantastic, by the way, for keeping Prosecco, because it's pretty cool. No direct sunlight, no vibration. That's what you need.
Great. Well, that's been amazing, Neil. I think we've gotten through all those questions.
Oh, it's been great.
Yeah.
I think one thing I'd just like to say finally, Lisa, just to say, you start by saying about I've been to Treviso. When we can start traveling again, everybody, I know lots of you have been to Venice, but do think about going to see some of the producers, because they're great people. It's a chance for you to see the video. You're not going to spend all your time doing that. I know that. We want to go and see cultural stuff. We want to go to a bar. We want to eat out, everything else like that. But it is a wonderful experience, and they are so friendly. And there's some great places to stay out of Treviso as well. I mean, Villa Sandy's a producer I mentioned earlier on. They've got a fantastic B&B there, Locanda Sandy. Very informal, very relaxed, but also Treviso is a great base as well to stay. And then you travel out to the vineyards, really. But if you get a chance to get across to Friuli Venezia Giulia as well, it's brilliant. So I'd like to just give a big shout out for people visiting too, because we love Prosecco, but we just need to get out there as well and taste tiramisu.
And do you know what, though? I will say that, you know, I found Venice, I've been to Venice a couple of times, and I just found at that time it was just so much hustle and bustle, and there's just people everywhere. And then we were staying in a lovely villa in Treviso, and it was just so nice to get away from it all, like go to Venice for the day, but then come back to kind of tranquil.
I understand that.
So it's such a lovely, lovely town if you haven't been. So yeah. Well,
I 100% agree with that, Lisa. Use Treviso as your base. You can get the train down to Venice, 100%. But it's been great. You know, I loved all the pairings. We've had, and then what I'll do is we'll just follow up on a couple of the points around the cocktails as well.
yeah.
Points from that. But thanks to everybody for all your questions. Really great, and thanks for.
And someone has just asked you just call
Thanks
the
for joining us.
producers and book. I think you just go on to
I would. Yeah, just go onto their websites, drop them an email. Some of them are really set up for certain times when they will do tours. Others are a bit more, you know, they will just say, that's great, come and see us. And I think it's quite nice to go and see 2 or 3 different producers, because you get a different family, cooperative, that sort of stuff. But they're so nice and so friendly. And there's great restaurants to go to.
yeah. No, it's amazing.
And great culture.
Well, thank you so much, Neil. That was so informative.
Lisa, I think that was a pleasure. Thank you.
Cheers. And I've now got all these bottles of Prosecco. How can I keep them now for the week?
Well, I don't know if you've got a little, you've got any little stoppers at home there. Look, don't worry about it. You can keep those for another couple of days.
With nothing in them?
No, it's fun. It's amazing, and it's a bit of a piece here. If you leave a bottle of Prosecco in the fridge for 2 or 3 days, you take it out, pour it straight into a nice clean glass, the bubbles will be there. The bubbles don't go away.
And you don't need to put a fork or anything in? Or a spoon?
But the spoon, yeah, we were talking about the spoon idea. I love the fact you talked about the spoon. That doesn't really make any difference. It's a good story though, but you'll be fine. You can, and they'll still be there. Do you know what? I've kept Proseccos here 3 or 4 days, and they still taste super fresh. They do last really well, actually.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, too right. Actually, yeah.
Thank you so much for hosting, and thank you to everyone.
Great stuff. Thanks very much, everybody.
And we'll see you soon. Bye.
Cheers, everybody. Bye.